So I think I would say to anybody out there right now whose business is struggling or who's looking for work and finding it really tough, do not start to stick those labels on yourself. Or if you've already stuck them on, you have a choice to take them back off again.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Unlocked, the Ricky Locke podcast with me, Ricky Locke. And I'm so excited because this week we have our first episode with a guest. And I'm delighted to have the amazing Sarah Rudder join me for an interesting conversation about mental toughness. Now you're going to find out a little bit more about Sarah in the actual podcast, but I think this will provide some value for you right now because let's face it, this year has been pretty tough on all of us. So I think mental toughness is a great topic for discussion and I'm hoping it will provide some value for you right now in your life and your business. Now don't forget, at the end of the episode, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already so that you know when every single episode is out. And don't forget to check out the show notes as well for some free resources to help you in your business and your life. Well, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you. Welcome everybody to this very special episode of Unlock, the Ricky Locke podcast. And today we are joined by an amazing woman, a woman that has the aim to inspire and unleash the potential in people. And is also a very keen motorcyclist. So welcome to the show, Sarah Rudder. How are you?
Thanks, Ricky. It's a delight to be here with you this morning and a real joy. So yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Very well.
Thank you very much. I really, truly appreciate you reaching out to me. And historically, this is the first guest on the show. So to everybody listening, I hope you enjoy this. It's a guest interview with Sarah Rudder. And I guess a bit of a backstory before Sarah introduces herself, a little bit of a thankful thing here from me. I first met Sarah back in May now for our great friends through Bev, Kate and Matt from Clear Thinking and Performance Tree. We took part in spring break and you delivered a fantastic talk on motorcycling. So that was really interesting to me because I'm a big motorcyclist myself. And it was this whole idea of mental toughness, which we won't reveal too much right now. We'll move on to that in a little bit, but I'm hoping you'll share some of those stories and hopefully this will provide some value to everybody listening for what you're going with. But Sarah, thank you for joining the show. Tell us who you are and what do you do?
Gosh, that's a big question, isn't it? So I'm, as you've said, my name's Sarah Rudder. I run a business called Ginger Dog Development, and I'm passionate about unleashing potential in people, and it's been really my passion for nearly 20 years now. I started my career in retail management, and then a few years into that realised that actually what I loved was developing the people in my team. And from there then moved into learning and development and kind of built my skills and my knowledge. So started off in a really quite generalist role, and then over the years, so probably about 8 years ago actually, I suppose I discovered the concepts and ideas around mental toughness, and it really spoke to me. And I guess it's almost one of those serendipitous things, you know. I found it because I was researching a program that I was designing for Molton Brown at the time, a leadership program, and it formed part of that program. And it just had resonance for me. It just connected for me. I was going through a bit of a tough relationship breakup at the time as well, and so it felt like I was kind of learning things that were helpful for me as well as learning things that I was going to help other people with, and that's still how I feel about it. It's one of the things that for me anyway, when I work with mental toughness and I work with people to help them develop mental toughness, it makes a real difference, and that's fundamental to who I am and what my values are.
Definitely. And it's a very similar path to me. I was working retail. I did some leadership positions, just store manager. And then people will recognize this from the last episode where I talked about how I moved into being a regional development coach and this whole behavioral training aspect. And I just like you, I'm passionate about trying to help people, help them grow, become more successful. And the topic of mental toughness, I think, is really relative right now. Let's face it, 2020 will probably go down as the year as resilience. It's an up and down world. And I think it's really tough, right now. We're all kind of in different circumstances. I never thought that in September, on the 14th of September, as we record this, that I would be where I am right now, doing what I'm doing in the world. It's just a crazy time. But I think it's quite interesting to explore this concept of mental toughness to everybody listening who's never heard of that. We probably use that kind of jargon a lot when we're talking, But what does it mean to you, Sarah? What is mental toughness, and what do you do with your company with mental toughness?
Yeah. So it's a really good starting point. And I think people will at some level have some sense of what mental toughness is, even if they've not come across it before. I think we talk about resilience a lot in organisations. Resilience has become the sort of real buzzword, resilience and well-being, haven't they, over the last few years?
Definitely.
Mental toughness is a little bit more than resilience. So resilience, if we think about the sort of traditional definitions of resilience, it's about being able to bounce back. So when something tough happens, you get knocked over, how do you pick yourself up? Are you capable of picking yourself up and continuing on? And so I think with resilience, there's this sense of you kind of resist the shock and carry on regardless. You know, there's that sense of clinging on, coping, you know, surviving with resilience. Whereas mental toughness is more about actually, how do I deal with these stresses and these challenges? It's more about mindset. So it's more about how do I not only cope with the situation, but how do I learn from it? How do I see and seize an opportunity that might be in this situation? So it's not just about sort of clinging on by the tips of my fingers and, you know, and hoping that everything will be okay. It's about, so resilience obviously is part of mental toughness. There's a sense of that, but it's about how do I grow? How do I develop? How do I become better as a result of this? And not only that, but also how do I perform on a day-to-day basis? So if we think about the sort of origins of mental toughness, it comes from sports psychology originally. So anybody that's into sport will probably have heard of mental toughness in a sports context. And really that's about, okay, as a professional sports person, you know, my job is to develop my skills, my ability to perform on the day. But then when I'm put into that situation on the day, when the crowd is there and the lights are on and the focus is on, can I still perform as well in that situation as I can in practice, in training, when there's nobody, you know, watching, when the pressure isn't on? Yeah, and that's definitely what mental toughness is about. And so if you think about it, we're using our mental toughness on a regular basis. So anybody that's ever, I don't know, had a sleepless night because their kids have been sick all night and then still had to go to work the next day and put a smile on and deliver something, you know, that's mental toughness.
Yeah.
It doesn't, you know, mental toughness doesn't have to be about I'm standing up in front of 100 people and delivering a presentation. Yeah. We're digging into that on a regular basis. We're perhaps just not badging it as mental toughness. Yeah. So my job, as I see it, is around helping people develop those skills and enabling them to tap into them when they need to, because we can consciously tap into that. You know, it doesn't have to be the perfect conditions for us to perform well. Mental toughness is about, even when the conditions aren't perfect, how do I bring my best self to this situation?
Yeah,
and that's not about being perfect. I think it's just to sort of, I guess, finish up on that. I think often when people hear the phrase mental toughness, they think it's all about being a bit kind of, you know, hard as nails and and you know, never frightened. And you mentioned me talking about riding a motorbike. You know, one of the things about riding a motorbike for me was about the fact that it scared the pants off me, and I wanted to discover whether some of the things I talk about in terms of managing fear were really doable, you know, in a really frightening situation for me. So I always say to people, this isn't about being bulletproof. It's not about being hard as nails. It's not about never showing emotion. It's not about never feeling frightened or nervous or any of that. It's about, what do you do with that? How do you manage it? How do you enable yourself, even with all of that stuff going on, to develop or to deliver what you want to deliver?
Definitely. Yeah. There's a very, I think, interesting thing at the minute in terms of, with this, about what you said about learning and growing from it. There's a permission at the minute to play, because at the minute, in terms of running a business, for me as a wedding industry business, there is no business right now. Well, for a couple of months there was, and it's starting to pick up again. But you have this permission to learn. So doing the same thing as I always did, I now have a chance to actually try new things, try different things and learn, because actually it doesn't really matter if it goes wrong or if it fails, because we are all in a same boat. But actually, that mental toughness can help me learn and grow how to get better at it, or how to do things better, how to conquer through that. And going back to what you were saying, you know, this year has been one of those horrific years for a lot of people, a lot of businesses. We were having a conversation beforehand. I remember at the start of this year, you know, I left my job to fulfill my dreams and my passion to be a professional magician and go off and create other businesses and speaking events and things like that. And then literally a week later, just overnight, everything disappearing. And you go through, like you said, those ups and those down moments through resilience, thinking, why me? What this isn't fair. I don't get why this is happening. And it's only until you get through that point and you start thinking, well, what can I now do to start to take that responsibility, to change my behavior? Do I want to continue to feel like this? Well, no, not really. It's crap. I want to choose how I want to respond, and let's learn from this and do something different. And, you know, it's such a tough time for everybody, but, you know, mental toughness is a popular topic to discuss right now.
Absolutely. And it is a really tough time. And, you know, same here. I had a situation where my diary was fully booked, you know, for months ahead. And I was thinking this is going to be the best year yet. And then within the space of a week, literally everything that I was due to deliver disappeared. And I think for me, there's something about just picking up on that point again, that mental toughness isn't about, you know, just going, well, that's fine, everything's okay. You know, it's not about positive. It's not about positive thinking. It's not about just brushing it all aside and ploughing on regardless. So there is an element of course, of self-awareness and of emotional intelligence required within that concept of mental toughness. And sometimes I think mental toughness is about simply being able to connect in with yourself and knowing what's right for you in the moment. You know, I have this phrase which is, what do I need today? Do I need to allow myself just to, you know, to flop on the sofa and do nothing, and that's actually going to be the best thing for me, and, you know, in terms of recharging? Or do I need to give myself a good kick up the arse and get on with things? You know, and sometimes, you know, kicking yourself up the arse is the right thing, and other times sitting on the sofa and just allowing yourself to be, allowing yourself to feel whatever it is you're feeling. You know, it's absolutely right, isn't it? You know, in the circumstances that we've all been living through, it's absolutely right and normal to feel anxious, feel angry about the things that you've had to, you know, you've lost or you've given up, whatever it might be. All of that's normal, and I think sometimes us human beings, we're not great at kind of recognizing that's okay. It's okay to feel like it's not okay to feel like that forever. But it's okay to
just
feel like that.
Just a short period of time. Yeah, definitely.
And to experience that for a little bit. And then to kind of go, right, okay, like you were saying, okay, this is the set of circumstances I've got. What am I going to do with it?
Yeah, I totally 100% agree. And this reminds me back in April, that stress and that anxiety of getting an email every single day from a couple that said, Ricky, I'm really sorry to let you know we've cancelled the wedding, or we've moved the wedding. And you're just like, oh my God, what is going on? You know, and I think that at that point, just like yourself there, I just had that feeling thinking, do you know what? I'm just going to sit on the sofa today and just binge Netflix. And that's okay, because this is what's going on. And actually that makes me feel good. Or if it was to go for a walk, that would make me feel good. And the difference I think I had to learn very quickly was that, like you just said there, just for a short period of time, not too long, not like wallowing, you know, like a hippo in the mud. I had to just decide to get over it quite quickly, to then, like you said, kind of like just, you know, pull up my big boy pants and just say, Ricky, just crack on now. Let's get on with it. You know, learn from this, take that responsibility to say, yeah, it is like it is. Let's do something about it, rather than just sinking into that feeling. I think it was hard as well, because in terms of the modern world that we're in right now, you look on social media and all you would see was just this negativity, you know, especially from my mates in the wedding industry as well. We were all going through it and nobody knew what to do. So you had no kind of clarity of what was to happen. So that just fueled how you felt as well. And it was only until the point where you just think, I need to look at this from a different perspective, which I thank Bev from Clear Thinking for giving me that insight a couple of weeks ago. You know, looking at things from a different perspective, then choosing how to behave differently really helped me get to a better feeling. You know, although there's not really much work still happening, I still feel better about myself because I'm learning from that experience. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And ultimately, you know, so I'll talk a little bit perhaps in a minute about the mental toughness model. Part of that is about control, and that control piece is around not just about how do we control our emotions, but it's also about how much do we feel in control of our life. or how much we feel we can take control of our life. And if you think about the circumstances that we found ourselves in over the last few months, there's not been an enormous amount of control available.
Not at all. Yeah, not at all. Yeah.
And as human beings, we don't like being out of control. That's the source of great stress for us. Yeah. And actually, one of the sort of, fundamental things really for us to remember is that even when everything else feels out of control, we still have control about what goes on in our brains. We still have control about what we think about things. Yeah, what the information that we feed ourselves, the stories, the narrative that we create about what's going on. And often the narrative we create can be the source of great stress, or it can be the source of great support for us. We can be brilliant at sabotaging ourselves.
Oh yes, absolutely.
We can be brilliant at supporting ourselves. So when you can't change anything else that's going on around you, what can you do about what's going on inside you?
Yes,
that's what I'm hearing from you, is actually taking a different perspective, thinking about something differently, kind of accepting that this situation is what it is, and then thinking about, right, okay, so with that in mind, do I put all my energy into trying to change the things that I can't change and feeling angry about it and frustrated and stamping my feet and saying life's not fair? Or do I put all my energy into thinking, right, okay, it's not fair, but it is what it is, and what am I going to do with that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, 100%. And if I'm honest, I probably felt like a spoilt brat, I think, this year, because I probably had this idea in my head that I've been building this business up for so long. I can't wait. Obviously it was sad that I was going to, lose my job, and, it was such a wonderful experience that we had. And I just felt the stars have aligned. This is my moment. What's going on? And I always thought, I'm not really a lucky person in life. What is going to go wrong? It's only till a week later, pandemic suddenly, is here. But I just started thinking, this is weird. This is my moment to go do what I want to do. What could possibly go wrong? So when it was taken away from me, there was this selfishness inside me thinking, why me? This isn't fair. I've worked extremely hard for this. I've built this business up. Why is this being taken away from me? And I just kind of spiraled down, like you said, in that control. I had no control. So what it did, I started to think inwardly, thinking, that inner chimp that we all love started to tell me, Ricky, this is crap. You're not doing very well here. What's going on, mate? You think, shut up, chimp. I'm trying. And I remember there was a moment where I was downstairs in the dining room where there was this complete role reversal with me and my partner. She works, she's a key worker in the NHS. And for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been traveling around the country, delivering these great workshops and keynote speaking and stuff like that, as well as being a magician. And then she was always at home on her own. And we had this complete role reversal. She was now going to work, and I was sitting in the dining room waiting for the telephone to call, thinking, is someone going to book me, or is someone going to do something? And then that just started to make me feel really rubbish. And like I said, it was only until I got to that point where I started to think, how am I going to choose how to behave here? And something you mentioned there really brought to life a video that we used to share quite a lot in one of our training exercises, was by, I believe it's by Gore Kapow. And there's this great video on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called Why Worry? Have you seen that at all? Oh, I'll have to share it with you. And to the listeners, type it in on YouTube, Why Worry?
I haven't. No, I don't know that one.
Oh, he's a fantastic guy. He's very an inspirational speaker. And he has this really cool anagram, which is, do you have a problem in life? If the answer is yes, it says, then why worry? And it says, if you have a problem in life, no, then why worry? And it's this very cool, like a
flow chart. I've seen, I've seen the flow chart, And
it's absolutely great. And that kind of reflects exactly what you just said of, control the controllables. If it's not in your control, why are you worrying about it? And I was doing that, through April and May. I was thinking, I can't control the pandemic, can I? All I can do is choose to decide how I want to behave and adapt. And I know that's something that you talk about in Mental Toughness, in your talks. One of the things I had to do was adapt to doing online shows, because it's ironic, isn't it? As a close-up magician, I cannot perform to people within 2 meters. So I had to do something different and learn from that experience. So
yeah, absolutely. And it's the learning again in that, isn't it?
Definitely,
So if you think about what I was saying about the difference between resilience and mental toughness, resilience would be, right, okay, we can survive this. We'll get through, and I'll just hope that everything, at some point in the future, everything will return to normal and be okay. All my work will come back to me, etc. That's resilience. Mental toughness is, okay, I've stamped my feet and I've felt like this, and now I'm going to park that, and now I'm going to think about, what am I going to do with this situation? How am I going to deal with it? How am I going to, where's the opportunity here for me to do something different, for me to learn, for me to grow, whatever it might be, but where's the opportunity, rather than just clinging on and waiting for the world to return to normal.
Absolutely. It's that very kind of open-minded thinking, rather than thinking this is a challenge or a hurdle or a threat. Well, actually, no, this is an opportunity to do something different and to get over that, rather than just looking at, oh my God, that's too big a mountain to climb over. Well, actually, there's an opportunity to get over that other side, maybe earn more money or create some success or do something. But it's about looking at it in a different light. Yeah, love that.
This might be a good time to mention. So the mental toughness model that I use. So I already mentioned control. So it splits into 4 C's. Control we talked about already. You're just talking now about one of the other C's, which is challenge. So challenge is about if I'm mentally tough, am I prepared to push myself and step outside my comfort zone, even a little bit? It doesn't have to be a huge leap. But am I prepared to go and try something different, stretch myself in some way? And am I also then prepared to take the risk, I guess, of failing or falling in some way with that? Can I reflect and learn from it? So that's the kind of challenge piece of the model. And that's what I'm hearing from you.
I can't remember exactly how the quote stands, and this brings to life, I believe it's Napoleon Hill, and it was something about every adversity is a seed for a great advantage. So it's what you learn, isn't it, from that failure? I learned. I remember doing one of my online shows when I started to think, okay, there's no performances, there's going to be no weddings for at least a couple of months. Let's do an online show. And I remember one of the shows that I did early on, the camera stopped working, the sound stopped working, and it was really funny. I mean, everybody forgave me because they realized this is new, it's completely different. But from that, I learned, and I didn't stop. I didn't just go, oh my God, I'm not doing this again. I carried on, plowed through. And 20, 30 shows later, it's now in a rhythm where you can actually run the technology right, and things work a lot better. But it was looking at that as a challenge. Let's learn from this. Okay, it went wrong. Don't worry about it. Can't control it. Just move on. Definitely. Yeah,
absolutely. And for somebody with lower mental toughness levels, then that would have felt like a really significant failure, and they may have retreated from that.
Yeah, definitely.
And not kind of gone, right, I'm going to give it another go based on what have I learned from that, how do I make it better? And that's the difference. I suppose the other thing to mention at this point as well is when people have very high mental toughness levels in some of these areas, that can be quite difficult for people to be around. For instance, if we're talking about the challenge piece, if you have a very, very, I'm going to use it in sort of, in inverted commas, if you have a very high score on challenge, that means that you're constantly seeking out challenge, you're easily bored, you're constantly provoking change, and that can be quite difficult for people around you as well to kind of keep up with. So I often say to people, developing mental toughness is not about being 100% mentally tough. It's almost about having agility, isn't it? It's about, there are times when I need to be able to turn that dial up to that point, but actually being at that really high level all day, every day is exhausting for people.
And quite annoying to a lot of people.
Really difficult to be around. So it's worth recognizing that. And I think, for people listening, it's worth thinking about this. This isn't about, you must always be 100% mentally tough, because that's not helpful at all for yourself or other people. So I ran a session last week, and I kind of build it as, this is not positive thinking, and people kind of go, what do you mean, mental toughness is not positive thinking? It's not positive. So positive thinking is kind of rah and it's everything is going to be absolutely hunky-dory, and every day in every way I'm getting better and better and all of that stuff. That is not realistic. Now, I spend a lot of time talking to people about negative thinking, telling myself that the world's coming to an end and I'll never work again. That's not helpful for me. Telling myself that everything will be fine and I just have to wait for it to, for the universe to align, that's not helpful. There's something in between those two things, and I typically call it's realistic thinking. What's actually likely to happen here, and what's the useful thing to tell myself that's going to support myself in doing something that's going to help here, as opposed to standing in front of the mirror saying affirmations in the morning. Now, if that works for people, please continue doing it.
Yeah.
You know? It's just, for me, mental toughness is about actually the narrative that I tell myself can either be sabotaging or it can be really supportive. You know, I'd like to choose the supportive version.
Absolutely.
And supportive doesn't necessarily mean unrealistic, you know.
Definitely. Yeah. Brilliant. So you got control and then challenge. So what's the other two C's then? Yeah.
So the third one is commitment. So commitment is it's all about goals and achievement. So commitment is, do I like to set goals for myself? If I'm in a workplace and I'm set goals, am I okay with that? Do I actually quite like that? Or do I find that almost paralyzing, you know, the fact that somebody's asking me to achieve something? So it's about setting goals, and it's about doing what it takes. You know, that's that sense of when I'm working towards a goal, I know what that goal is, things start to get tough or some barriers get in my way. You know, am I able at that point to work out how to overcome those things and continue onwards towards my goal? So that's the third one, commitment. And then the fourth one is confidence. So we've got control, commitment, challenge, and confidence. And of course, confidence kind of underpins all of those other ones. You know, if you don't have some element of confidence in yourself, it's actually really difficult to set a goal or to take on a challenge or to feel that you've got some kind of control over what's going on around you. So when I work with people on mental toughness, often we'll start with the confidence piece, because if you can start to develop confidence and build confidence, you can typically find a way into the other elements as well.
We say that would probably be understanding about your self-esteem and your values and what's important to you, to kind of work out what makes you confident, to then start that path. I guess it's like a circle, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's the 4 C's. So it's kind of like just like an endless flow, I guess, as well, isn't it? It can go wherever. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because if you think about it, you know, one of the things that I know from my life is that when I take on a challenge and I commit to it and I find my way around those obstacles and I take control of what's going on in my brain, ultimately that ends up with me building some confidence.
Yeah.
So it does, you know, it does flow, each one flows into each other.
Yeah.
And the other thing I know about working with people is that some people will be strong in some of those areas and less strong in other areas.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's about identifying where's the area for development and where have you already got some real strength. And how do we tap into that strength to build the other parts of it?
Yeah, definitely. Great. I love that. You'll have to, we'll share that on the podcast. We'll put that into the show notes, if that's okay with you, Sarah. We'll put like a picture of that. And
we'll
put
absolutely.
some links to Sarah as well. I guess one of the things then for people listening right now who are probably going through those moments of resilience and mental toughness, what would be your advice right now to help people be obviously more successful, or even if it's just the little wins right now, what would be your top tips right now to help them through the current circumstances, I guess?
Okay. So I think one of the really fundamental things for me is to start recognizing the badges that you're sticking on yourself right now, especially when we're going through tough times, especially, you know, if your business is struggling or you've been made redundant or you're furloughed or whatever it might be that's going on with you and for you right now. Notice what are those labels that you're kind of writing out and sticking on yourself, because chances are they're not very helpful or supportive. So I know that there'll be people out there who are perhaps sticking some quite big labels on around being a failure.
Yeah,
there's probably quite a lot going on in terms of not fair stuff for people. And I think we often take things that happen to us or around us, or things that we do, you know, behaviors or actions, and we turn them into some kind of identifying factor for ourselves. You know, so for instance, how many times have you heard somebody, or have you noticed somebody drop something or spill something and the first words out of their mouth are, "I'm so clumsy"?
Yes, yeah.
Or I'm so stupid, or what a fool.
Yeah,
You know, and straight away we're sticking these kind of labels on ourselves that
yeah.
aren't true, for
Yeah.
starters. You know, actually, what's the truth of the matter here? You spilt something, or
Yeah.
you fell over, or you know, whatever it was that happened. Or let's take your example of, you know, running your first online session, and you know, there were some technical issues, you know.
Yeah.
So you can take those technical issues and you can then stick a big badge on of failure, stupid,
Yes,
what an idiot.
I did cry for about no, I didn't really. No, I just got.
Or you can kind of go, oh, you know, that didn't go so well, or I dropped that, or you know, that's a different thing. We don't need to automatically stick these kind of labels on, do we?
Definitely. Yeah.
Because that's really disempowering, and it's really self-sabotaging.
Yes.
So I think I would say to anybody out there right now whose business is struggling, or who's looking for work and finding it really tough, do not start to stick those labels on yourself. Or if you've already stuck them on, you have a choice to take them back off again. Because, and I said this, didn't I, when we were talking about motorbiking, you know, when I went for my first day of training on a motorbike and managed to crash it and ended up on the floor, you know, I stuck some labels on myself right then around being stupid and not good enough is another one. Yeah, not good enough, a failure, hugely embarrassed. And actually what I discovered was, by going back and having another go, was that those weren't the labels that anybody else was sticking on. The, you know, the labels that other people were sticking on were brave and courageous and determined. And there'll be people out there right now who are, you know, in their third, fourth, fifth month of job hunting and being rejected on a regular basis. And people like you and me running our own businesses. We've had 4 or 5 months of not very much work and are still, you know, ourselves out there and doing our thing. Again, it's about, you know, what would somebody else say? What would somebody else notice about you right now? If you are job hunting and you're just getting up every day and ploughing on and having another interview, you know, the badge that I would put on you right now is brave, determined, courageous, you know, resilient, resourceful, tenacious, you know, all of those things. Not a single one of those badges would be failure or not good enough.
You're absolutely right. It's kind of looking at your circumstances and situation with a different perspective and labeling it differently. Absolutely. It reminds me your story, and highly recommend this, guys. If you haven't seen this, if you're listening to this, check out, I think it's called Leaning Into the Bends. It's a YouTube video by Sarah Rudder, who delivers a great talk for Rocket Mill. Is it Rocket Mill?
Yeah, I do quite a lot of work
on YouTube, and she talks about this experience. And I had a similar experience with Mod 1, where I failed my Mod 1, and for some reason I couldn't do it in Peterborough, where I was signed up for. We had to go to Kettering. And I just remember the whole way coming home.
Bill, for anybody who doesn't know about motorcycling, Mod 1 is, you know, is motorbike terminology.
Sorry, I should have said that. Mod 1 is, there's a series of tests that you need to complete, and Mod 1 is quite an interesting one, isn't it, to say the least. There's lots of things you have to do, like go around in a figure of 8 and emergency stop and all those sorts of things. And I remember it was raining and Peterborough couldn't do it, so we had to go to Kettering. And I just remember I failed my first Mod 1. I remember on the way home, just driving home, thinking exactly what you just said there. All of these labels, like, oh my God, my dad's going to think I'm a failure. My mum was going to hate me, you know, all this. And actually got home and they said, no, well done, you know, good on you. And I think my dad said to me, like, bloody hell, did it in the rain? Well done you. I wouldn't have done it in the rain. You know, so, well, that's quite good. You know, and you just get through it, and I learned from that experience and passed it the second time because I wasn't going to fail it again.
Hey, listen, I failed it twice.
Sorry. Sorry.
And I still went back and did it again.
You got it. You got through it in the end, didn't you? You learned from that experience, and you're now, I can't remember, was it you ride a 600 now, is it?
Yeah, I've got a ZZR 600, which I love, absolutely love. But it's interesting, I was out on it yesterday and with a friend, and we've got comms, so we were chatting away. And I really noticed that sort of sense of, you know, I can poodle about on the bike and chat quite happily, but I can't ride properly, if that makes sense, on the bike and chat. My brain does not allow those two things to happen together. And part of that is I've only been riding a couple of years, you know, and it's, you know, the muscle memory is not there as well as it could be just yet. And so I said, look, you know, if we're going to ride properly, and by properly I mean we call progressive riding in the motor arena. So, you know, reasonably fast and overtaking and, you know, all of that stuff. Yeah, I can't talk. And part of that's, again, that's partly about mental toughness, isn't it? It's about focus, about focus for attention.
Yeah.
You know, I can happily carry on a conversation if you're sitting as a passenger in my car because I'm driving for 20 odd years, you know, don't need to think hard about it. But if we're learning something new or doing something that's not really ingrained, we've got to find that focus. And that's, again, that's part of mental toughness, is just focusing in on what's important. Where do I need to put my energy and my attention right now? Yeah, as much as being able to get up off the floor when you fall onto it.
Yes, I've been very close. I haven't, fingers crossed, I haven't dropped mine. But I nearly dropped it at a petrol station when I didn't actually have the ignition on, and because the ignition wasn't on, it just feels so much heavier, and I nearly dropped it. So that was a bit of a moment. But that was fantastic. Thank you, Sarah. That was I think that's a great way to end it. The little point there to mental toughness with the bike. So thank you very much for coming along and joining as the first guest of Unlocked. I think it'd be great for people to know more about you, and you've got an event that's coming up in October that if you'd like to share with everybody.
Sure. So I'm going to be running a mental toughness masterclass on October the 9th, and people will be able to find details on my website and also on Eventbrite. So my website is gingerdogdevelopment.com. And also, I wonder if it's okay to mention, so a friend and I, John Bartlett, and I run a free event every sort of 6 weeks or so called Field Trip.
Ah, yes, brilliant, yeah.
Our next field trip will be on November the 4th, and we're going to the Peak. So we always pick a kind of slightly landscapey, outdoorsy kind of...
Is that so John can just get a picture of it on his Zoom background? Because he always has a different background, doesn't he? So
John can use up his amazing photography that he's got. So yeah, last week we went to the Edge. So that was really interesting. And we sort of did a whole series of workshops throughout the day that were around stepping outside your comfort zone, essentially, for finding your edges. So yeah, November the 4th we'll be to the Peak, and we'll be talking about peak performance.
Great.
Mental toughness, you know, handling fear and failure, all of those sorts of things. So again, if people follow us on LinkedIn, we've got a LinkedIn field trip page, then people will find out more details about that as that comes out. So
brilliant. Oh, thank you. Well, there you go, guys. That's some great resources there for you to find Field Trip. And obviously I think it's the event called When the Goings Get Tough. Oh, sorry, When the Going Gets Tough. The one I'm going to run in October is called It's going to just be a mental toughness masterclass. It's a slightly longer one, so I think it's going to be about 3 hours. We'll explore the mental toughness model, and then also share some tools and some techniques for people to start developing their own mental toughness as well. Brilliant. Well, Sarah, thank you so much. Thank you for such an engaging and thoughtful session. Really appreciate you coming on. And good luck for the next couple of months. Hope it goes well for you. Thanks for inviting me, Ricky. It's been a real pleasure. Wow, what an episode. Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining me on the show for that great discussion. I'm definitely going to have to go back and re-listen to this a few times. Now, as it is the end of the show, this is Magical Musings, which is the reflection and thought. And my key takeaways from this episode would definitely be think about whatever your current circumstances are. How can you learn from this situation and focus on what's really important to you? And don't forget, all of those labels that we attach to ourselves, you can choose to keep those labels on, or you can choose to take them off. Thank you for listening to the episode. Don't forget to hit those show notes as well. There's loads of resources such as the 4Cs model, the masterclass, and the field trip as well. And don't forget to hit subscribe and rate and review if you enjoyed the episode. And I'll join you on the next episode of Unlocked.